All right, so since starting my channel a few years ago, it's been off and on. I haven't done it, I haven't been super regular about it. Uh, but growing up, or in the last 10 years or so, mostly I was reading a lot of history. And, that's just where I've been. I grew up reading a lot of fiction and stuff, but then I kind of, I didn't. So ever since starting my channel, I focused back on fiction. And so I have with me some of my easiest to recommend novels and series since starting the channel. Now, a lot of my favorites are obviously going to be in here. I've ordered them in a way where the first ones that I'm going to recommend, I think I could recommend the easiest to everyone. Like I've recommended them to my family, or I just know it has a large appeal. And maybe some of the books near the end of the list will be a little bit more demanding, or maybe not necessarily for everyone, but if you like the pitch, certainly go for them. I totally recommend all of these. They all speak to me. I love all of them. But again, these are my almost my no-brainer things to recommend if you haven't got to these yet. So, and these are since I started the channel a few years ago. So, first one I'll start with, and I have what, eight recommendations. So the first one I will start with is a standalone. So that's easy to recommend. It is Project Hail Mary, and it is about 450 pages long. Whenever I recommend it, and I've recommended it to family, I've recommended it to friends, I say, don't go looking at reviews. Don't look about almost anything. You don't even need to read what happens here, but you could be spoiled, and there are some twists and some specific parts of this book. I think it's even being made into a movie. Don't even look at the trailer for that until you've read it. One of my very favorite standalones of all time. It's a feel-good sort of book. It finds this, the pitch is it finds this guy who doesn't even know his name, and he wakes up on this he wakes up in this bed. He doesn't even know where he is. He doesn't know who he is. And a part of it is trying to find out what is going on, why he is where he is, and what the problem is that got him put into that situation. So you're going a little bit back in time as he's starting to remember things, and also he's dealing with this issue that they're having. It's a sci-fi. I don't want to go very far into specifics of what you will find, but again, if I was to say go into something blind, and I think it has a wide appeal and a lot of people like it. Certainly, everyone I've recommended it to has liked it. I think Project Hail Mary is my first no-brainer that I think everyone would like. My next one, which this is the very start of a series, one of the best books I've ever read, certainly in the last few years, and I'm so excited. It has this wide acclaim based on, it has very Roman vibes, but it also has it has an academy, this magical academy, think Harry Potter or whatever, but more for adults and whatnot. It is The Will of the Many. This is my second no-brainer that I think everyone should get into. And we're just starting the series. I don't know if it's going to be 3 books or 7 books, but with how strong it started, you all have time to get on board. The idea is it kind of has this academy, and you can see here it has how the power is sort of distributed. If you are an Octavus, the 8th rank, you don't receive this will from anybody. If you're a Septimus, you get it from 8 people. Sextus, 56, Quintus 30, and it just exponentially grows. And if you're a princeps, which I haven't met a princeps in the novels or in the novel, maybe later on, that's from 40,000 people. And it's very interesting how it is situated. And they go to this academy. It has so many great twists and turns to it. It uh, it's something that I will definitely reread before the second book. And again, my second no-brainer that I think almost anyone could like. My third one, uh, one of the best books I've ever read. This is something, it's not going to be new. Everyone's heard of the novel. It is The Pillars of the Earth, about this by Ken Follett. It is the first of the Kingsbridge series. You can see him here. There's a prequel there. And then there are three more that come after The Pillars of the Earth. And each time, it's about this cathedral being built. Uh, like you would wonder, why would I read such a chunky novel about a cathedral being built? But the way he weaves between these, I think, three main perspectives that are all very different, but all very intriguing. Like, you're excited to get to all of them. And it's just about this. It's about this cathedral being built, and it is a historical fiction. So you could go back after, and there are some things that are happening in the novel that actually happened. This one is based in, I think, the 1100 or so, and then each subsequent one, like the prequel, I think is more like a Norman thing, like in the 900s, and then each time it bumps 200 years or so. I think the next one is more about the plague, and then there's one with Napoleon and whatever, and then we have the fourth one. No brainer. If you're okay reading a chunky novel, it's not fantasy, easy to recommend. One of the greatest books I've ever read, certainly. The next one, which is a no-brainer, I think, is a fantasy quartet. I was trying to think of the word. Is The Faithful and the Fallen Quartet by John Gwynne. Now, I will say that John Gwynne has another trio after this that a lot of people like. I didn't. He also has another trio that just ended. That's more based on kind of Viking lore. A lot of people love that. I didn't. I liked part of the first book, and then I just kind of got over it. But I really loved the quartet, his original one. It is, they're chunky books as well, but they go very quickly. If the reason I could recommend this, I think, is there's a lot going on. There's this map where we're going all over. We're going all over the map. It has a bigger cast, but it doesn't make major demands on you like some of these other novels do. Certainly, like one of these other series I'll bring up. It has a major cast, so you kind of have to do them back to back a little bit. But I'm an idiot, and I was able to keep up because it really focuses on a few main perspectives, and man, the writing is good enough where when some of these characters do something, you don't forget it. So here's the map, and we're going all over the map. We're going all over the map. It's very classic fantasy. The battles are amazing. They're very gritty and close quarters. I could recommend it to anyone, I think. Again, there are four in that series. Oh, excuse me. The next one I could probably recommend is the Red Rising series. I probably could even put it down on the list as easy to recommend. I've only done the trilogy. I haven't done, these two that are up there, Iron Age, and, it's like the next era of Red Rising. I've recommended this to some people. It's like a space opera, but it kind of starts out a little bit as this sort of Hunger Games sort of Academy thing going on. For some reason, Academy novels are easy to recommend, and people seem to just really like them. I do too. I really liked the trilogy. It wasn't, it's not one of my top series ever, but easy to recommend. And when I have recommended it, people have generally really liked it. So I'll put that there. Something that I like even more than Red Rising that is similar to it, but maybe a more expansive sort of universal take. Like Red Rising is very much kind of a solar system sort of sci-fi, where there's colonies, they're colonizing these different planets and whatnot. This is colonizing different parts of the galaxy and stuff, and it has these different alien races and stuff like that. It's the Suneater series. The reason why maybe it's further down on the list is some of these books are quite chunky, and I haven't finished it yet. I'm on book 5, Ashes of Man. I've liked all of the books so far. Maybe, a lot of people, it's like their favorite sci-fi ever. The reason why it's on this list for me is I think people like this style of sci-fi, which is more sci-fantasy. I like maybe stuff that's maybe more like Project Hail Mary and more about, it's a little more grounded. But this is something where the writing is great. It's got a big-ish cast, but it doesn't make major demands on you. A lot going on, a lot of political intrigue going on. Some of the books have felt like they kind of are a little formulaic in a way, but in the sense where it seems like the last few have kind of started the same sort of way, and even though they end up being very different books, it's like, okay, he's doing this now, he's doing this, I've seen him kind of do this. And he kind of has this thing where it's my biggest, it's one of my biggest pet peeves in books is when someone yells or says something, and then it says, I heard someone do this and this and this. He said this, and it took a while for me to realize that it was me saying it. Man, Christopher Rocchio's got to knock that off. He's done it about 48 times in the series where he, the main character will hear something not realizing it was him that said, like, does that ever happen to you? Doesn't happen to me, but anyway, that's not even a gripe. It's a fantastic series. I'm just being crotchety. So last two. Next one, I still contend that it's the greatest novel ever written. It's the novel that compelled me to do this channel. It's not a fantasy novel. It's a very old French novel, and everyone's heard of it. A lot of people have seen the movies, which I hate, and the BBC miniseries, which I think is fine, but not as good as the novel. I think everyone should read the novel, The Greatest Revenge Tale Ever. It is The Count of Monte Cristo. It is on my brain dead, my easiest recommendations to you. And most people don't really take me up on it at all. It's a huge novel, but it's fantastic. Like, how long is this? This is 1,200 pages, so it's a big novel. But I think if you can read the first 250 pages, which that's a big ask, but if you can if you will know for sure if it's got its hooks in you by about 200. But I'm sure you'll be into it long before that. I think it's the best paced novel, even though it's so long. I love it. It's my favorite book of all time, maybe Don Quixote is up there with it, and a couple of these other ones. But I wish more people would read it because I think it's the greatest novel ever. And I wouldn't be offended if people read it and they didn't love it. So, last one, which is my easiest recommendation to give because I just love it so much and I've come through the other end of it, but I know that not everyone will get through even the first book or the second book or whatever. But if you can get through, if you get to the third book, I'm sure you're going to be in for the long haul. But it's Malazan. This is my favorite of the series. Almost all my videos on my channel are just based on a Malazan read through. It has a notoriously huge cast where we are first starting we're in the first book. We're in this continent with this big cast. Second book, we go to a totally different continent and we're kind of jumping around. And then we go to another continent and we're always adding more people. It's one of those things where you have to really be willing to not worry about your page count that you're reading put some of your TBR aside, and if you can just get hooked for the ride, whatever, I don't know if that's the best way to say that, but if you can just sit down and be ready for a long haul sort of amazing series, which I think is the greatest series I've ever read. And I'm on the process of rereading these big, massive 10 books, and they have all these side series. It has these side series. It's written by a couple different authors. Stephen Erickson has written these 10 that I've read, and I've started reading some of the others from Ian C. Esselmont. I think it's the greatest fantasy series I've ever written or ever read, and certainly on a broader scope, just the best series I've ever read. If I ever went to prison for 60 years or whatever for doing whatever, and I could take a series with me, it would be that one. It would be that one because I would know that I could just chew on it for the next 60 years because there's just so many different amazing side things that, it just so carefully crafted. As I was going through the first time, I almost went back to back to back. I felt a little bit of burnout by about book 6 or 7, but I kept going. But it did make me a little more crotchety about the series because, is like I was doing a chapter, and then I'd come in, I would almost reread parts of the chapter and react to it. So it was like I was going through the series 3 times. But now that I'm doing my reread a little more privately, it's just the greatest. It's just the greatest series. But I could recommend any of these. So, other ones, just looking behind me. Actually, I won't even bring up other ones. So, anyway, I'll talk to you guys later, and I'll be doing more videos. So feel free to like and subscribe if you'd like. Maybe I'll break out the green screen a little bit when I have a chance. So talk to you guys soon. Bye-bye.